Back in the 1920s, organized crime supplied the alcohol, but later on in January of 1920, the American government banned the sale and supply of any alcohol. This gave the government the idea that this would curb both violence and crime, but prohibition did not achieve its goals, which led to more crimes and excessive violence. Banning the substance would help improve the quality of American lives, but at the same time, it caused an explosive growth in crime, and before Prohibition, it more than doubled the amount of illegal bars and saloons operating. Police eventually used resources that were used to fight other crime for the prevention of alcohol consumption. The criminal gangs that supplied the alcohol were ruthless, with overinflated prices and often fighting each other for control of the trade. Due to the fighting among these gangs, a whole black market was created around alcohol. At the time of the alcohol prohibition, bribing government officials was common, and people were more increasingly crafty in the way they would hide their alcohol, such as hollowed-out cans, false books, and hip flasks. And now both violence on the streets and unemployment increased. The St. Valentine's Day Massacre was an attack from an Italian gang in Chicago led by Al Capone on the Irish North Side Gang. The attack was by 4 unidentified men who disguised themselves as police officers and raided a hideout of the gang. These 4 men had the 7 members of the gang line up against a wall, and the 4 men shot and murdered each gang member. Jobs were scarce and people needed to provide for their families. Gangsterism was dangerous but provided an easy way to make money, which would result in the increase in the violence that there was. As the American government passed the 18th Amendment outlawing alcohol, people who enjoyed a drink became criminal for doing so. One of the most notorious of the gangster organizations operated in Chicago. At this time, Chicago was one of the main places where bootlegging occurred. It's also where bootlegging had added an immense wealth to what was already a successful gambling, prostitution, and racketeering business that reached into about every neighborhood, police station, and government office. At first, it was only local gangsters that operated independently, always competing to supply liquor. After a while, this competition, some found that joining forces would create an organization large and efficient enough to handle the entire bootlegging operation. The quality of alcohol was poor and many people became sick. Deaths from alcohol poisoning had risen 400%. People will argue that alcohol was easier to obtain during Prohibition since the bootlegging industry was so immense. You could purchase alcohol on almost any street in America. Many home products were of poor quality, however, people were very inventive about the making of home alcohol. Although a great idea and concept, Prohibition was ultimately a failure. The public grew less respectful of the law. Drinking and driving increased, and public drunkenness also increased. The quality of alcohol was poor, and many people became sick. Deaths from alcohol poisoning had risen. Although a great idea and concept, Prohibition was ultimately a failure. The public grew less respectful of the law. Drinking, driving increased. The quality of alcohol was poor, and many people became sick. Deaths from alcohol poisoning had risen 400%. Police resources used to fight other crime were diverted. Although a great idea and concept, Prohibition was ultimately a failure. Although a great idea and concept, Prohibition was ultimately a failure. The public grew less.
Let's go. Come on.
Bang! 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 Richard messed it up. He never fell.